Good morning, everybody.
All right, let's dive into it. Oh, look at the fresh cut, Perk. Just checking you out right now. It's clearly game
It is
day.
a fresh cut. Big Perk is looking good this morning.
Yeah,
and
who
Wendy,
cut
I'm
your
just
hair
trying
in
to say,
Dallas? They did it. They did the damn thing.
He got a damn good haircut. And as far as Wendy goes, I mean, eventually he's going to confess to all of us that indeed he is running for office. It's coming soon, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming soon. Brian Windhorst is running for office.
Last night.
All right, let's get into it.
Perk was at the rodeo, like he was on tour.
I need some video of the rodeo. But let's talk about the game right now, guys, because we know what the Celtics are trying to do. They're looking to bring out the brooms in Dallas as Boston leads 3-0 over the Mavs. Luka will need to really step it up after a tough outing in Game 3 in which he fouled out and made his frustration with the refs well known throughout the game. Here's Luka on how he can handle that better moving forward.
I mean, yeah, at some point, yeah. I just really want to win. Sometimes I don't show it the right way, but at the end of the day, I really want to win. So I got to do a better job, showing a different way.
The history is there for us to learn from. When you look at great players and struggles, you look at MJ and the struggles that he had against Detroit. You look at, some Magic Johnson struggles. You look at LeBron's first time around, and so it's there to learn from. And so for great players, you have to fail to understand, how to be successful at the highest stage, and this is the highest level, is being in the finals.
All right, Big Perk, you're up first. Break this down for me. Has Luka hurt his stock in these finals?
Hell yeah, he has. And look, Molly, before the finals started, all we was hearing, right, was Luka the best player in the league? He needed to complete the mission in order to get that crown. See, here's the thing, right? We have to pump the brakes, especially when it comes down to anointing players as being the best player of the league. When it comes down to being the best player in the league, what these finals have shown us is that it's two sides of the basketball. And I get it. Luka Doncic led the league in scoring this year, right? I get it, what he's been doing offensively in this postseason. But what has been spoken out badly is the other side of the basketball, and not defending, not putting forth the effort. And when you're the best player in the world, you have to get it done on both ends. He haven't even been the best player in this series. That's been Jaylen Brown. Okay, even when Luka is averaging, come out of a game having 33, 11, and 11, Jaylen Brown still have the better impact on the game. So when I think about being the best player and I think about what Luka is now, just a couple of weeks ago, we was talking about him being the best player in the league, being the best player in the series. He's far from that right now because of the defensive side of the ball and him being the defensive liability and just not putting forth the effort.
Molly, I don't think his reputation has been hurt, but I don't think it's been improved. He finished third in the MVP voting this year, and people in Dallas were really offended by that. They couldn't believe, after the strong Mavericks finish that they had to the season, they'd only get 4 first-place votes, 2 of which, by the way, came from Dallas media members. And I think this was a great opportunity for him to establish himself as that guy who could be the MVP. And there are limitations to his game, and he has shown the ability at times to overcome them. In this postseason, there have been moments where he's been excellent on defense by his standards. He's not going to remind anybody of Michael Cooper or anybody like that, but there have been times where he's been really good on defense in the postseason. There have been times where he's let the referees go. So he's shown flashes that he can do it. But coming into this finals, when he had a great opportunity to uplift himself, to lead Dallas on a serious challenge to the Celtics are the better team, but to lead them on a serious challenge, and he hasn't done that. They passed out shirts, and they had a little campaign here when they knew Luka wasn't going to win the MVP, and they called it Pravi MVP. Pravi is Slovenian for truth or real. And, it was sort of their way of saying, the rest of the world doesn't give you credit, Luka, but we know that you're the real MVP here. Well, he hasn't played like an MVP in this series. And so I would say that this could be a learning experience. But the thing is, those comments that Luka made yesterday where he said he's got to be better, Molly, he said that, umpteen times. It feels like every 6 or 8 weeks this is happening. Yep. And the fact that this is happening again in the finals is not showing an elevation of his status.
I disagree with both of you. In the case of Kendrick Perkins, I think that he's being a bit too harsh, dare I say. Allow me to explain. Luka Doncic, we all know that he's a liability defensively. He always has been a liability defensively. That is not a secret to anybody on this show. He is averaging 29, 9, and 6 on 47% shooting in this series. That's not a secret to anybody on this show. What has changed is that in the first 2 games, if you remember, Wendy, and you remember Big Perk, we were talking about Kyrie Irving and how Kyrie Irving had to answer the call because nobody was helping Luka. What transpired in Game 3 was so egregious in all of our eyes that all of us have hopped on Luka Doncic, and rightfully so. Kendrick Perkins, you were absolutely right. Some people called you harsh or whatever, but what they can't deny was the veracity, the absolute truth of your words when you talked about how selfish he was, how petulant he was, how much that hurt the team. Wendy goes on Scott Van Pelt's show on SportsCenter in the immediate aftermath of the game, and we've almost never seen Wendy talk like that about somebody. And why did Wendy confess to feeling what he felt? Because you've watched Luka do this repeatedly over the years in international competition where he gets himself fouled out or gets ejected or whatever. And you talked about how this petulant behavior served to hurt the team. All I'm saying is everything y'all was saying was right, but none of it was being said until we saw what we saw in Game 3. And so now we've got to dial back just a touch and say, okay, that's one game. Now, we didn't say that about him in Games 1 and 2 because we were preoccupied with what Kyrie wasn't doing, what P.J. Washington wasn't doing, what Derrick Jones and others weren't doing. Game 3, we were absolutely on target. We're calling him out. We're looking for what he's going to do in Game 4 to make amends for what he didn't do in Game 3 and how he specifically hurt his team. 27 points on 27 shots, holding the ball. Yes, he's always been a ball hog, but still in all, Kyrie's in his bag. You got to know to get that man the basketball. He didn't do any of those things. He wasn't getting back on defense. He was busy arguing with refs, leaving his team defensively at a disadvantage when he decided to not show up on defense at all because he was arguing with the refs. And then when he did show up, he was leaving Hauser and others wide open for three-point shots. All of those things y'all pointed out was right on point, but it was because of Game 3. We weren't saying that in Games 1 and 2. And that's why I say, again, he hurt his star stock in the finals. That the jury's still out on that. Jury's still out on that.
But that's not true. That's not true, Stephen A. We were saying this in Game 1 and Game 2. It just wasn't as loud as we were addressing after Game 1 and Game 2. It wasn't as loud as we were addressing Kyrie Irving. But we pointed out, Wendy and I was on Get Up, and we pointed out how Luka was being picked on. And that was the Celtics' game plan, was to put him in the most action that they possibly could defensively.
No, I'm talking about the arguing with the refs. I'm talking about the arguing with the refs.
No.
That's what I'm talking about. I know the defensively. I'm just talking about the arguing with the refs.
My bad. I'm talking about overall. I'm talking about what he's been doing defensively. He's been a traffic cone, and it's been a disaster. Like, we look back last season when Jokic won Finals MVP. We look at his offensive numbers and the numbers that he put up in the box score, but defensively, he was one of the best players in the postseason. We were wondering, hey, look, is he going to step up to the plate and be able to guard the pick and roll? Jokic did that. And what it goes to show me is this when I look at Luka. I'm watching an old man, Al Horford, and I say that respectfully because I believe Al Horford is going to be knocking at the door of the Hall of Fame, in my opinion, if they complete the mission and win the championship. I'm looking at old man Al Horford move better than Luka Doncic. I believe Al Horford is 38, 39 years old right now. He looks faster. Yep. He looks quicker. He's playing better defense. And that goes to another part of the story. Every single player, right, that we've anointed over the past 5 years as being the best player in the league, what's the number one thing that we always condemn them on? It's them being in shape. Being in shape. Being able to have the durability to play both sides of the floor. Giannis, Curry, Jokic. Boston tried this same tactic with Curry in 2022. when they were trying to pick on him defensively. I saw Steph Curry man up and guard Al Horford on the low block and then give up ground and then have to go and deliver offensively. So at the end of the day, when we're talking about players being the best player in the world and start to put their name in that type of conversation, they got to play both ends of the floor, and Luka is not doing that.
Yeah, I think just generally I would say his position is neutral, and that's a disappointment. You didn't want neutral. You know, you list those numbers, Stephen A., 29, 9, and 6. Those are awesome numbers. Great first ballot Hall of Fame numbers. They're less than he performs regularly. You know, he was putting up, I think he went through a period in rounds 2 and 3 where he had triple doubles in 5 out of 7 games. He was, you know, he's scoring 3 or 4 or 5 points below his average that he had during the regular season. And I just want to bring up Nikola Jokic real quick, because last year going into the late rounds of those playoffs, Jokic was under some pressure to increase his star. He had won 2 MVPs, but the Nuggets had spun their wheels a little bit, partially due to injury, but they'd spun their wheels a little bit. And it wasn't until he was brilliant throughout that whole playoff run and delivered that brilliant MVP Finals performance that he was elevated to the next level. Now there was unquestioned about where Jokic was. Luka is what we were hoping for from Luka. And I don't even think the Mavericks had to win the series for him to do that. But for him to show sort of, you know, not his best, but then also show some of his weaknesses at the same time, that's, I think, what I'm reacting to.